The echo in the wood. The rhythm was always the same. 3 beats, short, sharp, like bone-hitting wood. Soren sat on the edge of the velvet sofa, his phone forgotten on the floor. The house was usually silent when their parents worked the late shift, but tonight, the silence had been bruised by a sound that shouldn't be there. "Stop it, Soren," Luca hissed, clutching the banister of the stairs. His knuckles were white, and his eyes were wide with a fear he was trying to hide. Soren looked up, his face drained of color. "I'm not doing anything, Luca. I thought it was you." Thud, thud, thud. This time, the sound didn't come from the hallway. It erupted from the heavy front door, rattling the brass handle. It wasn't a polite request to enter. It was a demand. Luca flinched, pulling his knees to his chest on the stairs, staring at the door as if it might shatter. Soren approached the door, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He reached out, his fingers trembling, and pressed his eye to the tiny glass peephole. Outside, the porch was bathed in the sickly yellow glow of the street lamp, cutting through the driving rain. "There's no one there," Soren whispered, his voice cracking. He turned back to Luca, but before he could move, the sound shifted. Tap, tap, tap. It moved away from the door and slid across the exterior wall, ending at the kitchen window. Luca pointed a shaking finger at the floor. The sound hadn't stopped at the window. It was moving downward, vibrating through the floorboards, rising up from the dark heating vents. It sounded like something heavy and wet was dragging itself through the narrow spaces beneath their feet. Soren grabbed a heavy metal flashlight from the drawer. He knew they couldn't just sit there. The knocking had settled behind the basement door and the pantry. It was slow now, methodical. Soren stood before the basement door, the beam of his light shaking as it hit the wood. "Soren, help me. It's cold in here." The voice from behind the door was perfect. It was Luca's voice, right down to the slight tremor. But Luca was standing right next to Soren, his hand resting on Soren's shoulder. They stared at each other, the blood freezing in their veins. Luca backed away, his breath coming in ragged hitches. The voice inside the basement began to change. The pitch dropped, turning into a wet, rattling laugh that sounded like dry leaves scraping against a gravestone. The knocking started again, but this time, it was coming from inside the walls all around them. The deadbolt on the basement door slid back with a slow, metallic screech. The door didn't fly open. It drifted inch by agonizing inch. Soren and Luca stood frozen as a shadow that had no owner stretched across the floor toward them, reaching out with fingers made of smoke.